Hello and welcome to Real Watchers Movie Club. My name is Garrett.
And I'm Kevin.
And we are your hosts. Movie Club is a show where we take a look at a movie every single week and discuss it just like a book club. On today's show, we are covering the racing true story, Ford v Ferrari. Our thoughts and more coming up on Movie Club. Released in 2019, Ford v Ferrari was directed by James Mangold and stars Christian Bale, Matt Damon, and Jon Bernthal. American car designer Carroll Shelby and driver Ken Miles battle corporate interference and the laws of physics to build a revolutionary race car for Ford in order to defeat Ferrari at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1966. It is currently ranked 206 on IMDb's Top 250 and currently has a 3.9 out of 5 on Letterboxd. It won 2 Oscars for Best Film Editing and Best Sound Editing, and was nominated for 2 more, including Best Sound Mixing and Best Picture. Before we dive into our thoughts, though, this week we do want to issue a spoiler warning. We are going to be talking about everything that happens in the film, the plot points, twists, revelations, and so much more. If you haven't seen the film yet, we'd recommend you go and watch it, and then come back here and check out our discussion. Stay tuned to the end of the show, though, to find out what movie we have coming up next week, because it will be our holiday special. So make sure you find out what that is. Alrighty, Kevin, so we're here today to talk about Ford v Ferrari, and this was a movie that you had actually suggested, as in our weekly changing of the turns. So what made you pick Ford v Ferrari?
I just absolutely love the movie. Again, just like with Amadeus, I like kind of biopic movies that have to deal with like real life people, and Carroll Shelby and Ken Miles are known for their Ford GT and beating Ferrari at Le Mans. So, and I like all that classic racing car stories, and that's why I picked it. I can watch this movie a million times over.
Sure. And I know you're also just a big car guy, so I get it. But I had seen this movie before. I didn't see it in theaters, but I did watch it when it came out at home. I think I actually ended up watching this with my dad, who really enjoyed the movie. And I like the movie too. I think it's a good movie. There's a couple of issues that I have with it that we'll kind of dive into as we talk more about the film. But I still think it's a great movie, though. So let's go ahead and dive in, though. Obviously, this is based off of a true story. I don't remember how exactly, 100% perfect it gets the story, to the truth. Do you happen to know how close it is to the real thing?
It's pretty accurate, maybe about 90%, but everything that Ken does and that Kelly does is pretty spot on to what happened in their races and behind the scenes and everything.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I know the movie kind of, and this is a big spoiler, with Ken Miles' death. I believe it's a little bit different in real life than it happened in the movie. It's
a different test course, and then something else happened. His brakes did fail, and that's how he passed, but it was in a different course, in a different way that it happened. But I don't think Shelby was there when he passed. I don't think so. I think he got a call, but they made it look like Shelby was there, but his kid was there. That's the sad part.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think for the movie, it makes more sense that Shelby is there because of the friendship that they really developed throughout the entire movie. So I think it really works, and I think for storytelling purposes, it definitely works. And actually, one of the things you touched on was the races and the accuracy of the races, and that is the 25-minute kind of span of time that we get the final Le Mans race is incredible in this movie. One of the best racing sequences ever put on film, I think.
I just like the cinematography. We're in a helicopter, but then sometimes we're in the cockpit when he's going around corners, and it's not like when people drive cars in TV shows and they're looking back and they're just driving like this and not looking forward. Bale actually, he physically looks like he's trying to manhandle that car to get it around those corners, which really makes a viewer like me absolutely love it, because it's that's what it would feel like. You're feeling those G's, you're getting pushed to this side, then to this side, and some Fast and the Furious doesn't do this. It's not very realistic, so that's why I love the kind of grittiness and real life, down to earth kind of movie with this.
Yeah, and I think realistic is the key, right? Like, there's so many movies that look so fantastical, and one of the other movies that I think really nails the realistic tone of the racing is Rush, about with Chris Hemsworth and Daniel Bruhl. I think that also nails it. But I think this movie, specifically that Le Mans race, is just so well done. It's so well shot, like you said. It is thoroughly engaging. And a lot of the time when you're with Shelby and when you're with Miles, it's just as engaging. I think that the two of them they're obviously the heart and soul of this movie. They're what the movie is about, as much as the car itself, which, I mean, come on. The Ford GT is a gorgeous car.
It is.
And would love to have one. But which is the only Ford I'd ever want to own. Sorry, Ford. But it kind of gets into my biggest issue. I think when the movie doesn't deal with Shelby and Miles, I think the movie drags a little bit. And I think that definitely the first 2/3 of this movie, I feel like, has some pacing issues. They have some spectacular moments in it, don't get me wrong. Like in the beginning when Ford attempts to buy out Ferrari, and then the insults that are thrown at Ford's head, and when he wants to know what Ferrari said, it's fantastic. But then also when they eventually have the GT and they show it to Ford, and he's in the car crying, it's so good. It's so funny, but then he just, like, because at first you're like, oh, he's just scared, or like he hasn't been in a car that fast or whatever, and then he drops that great line, I wish my dad was here to see this. And it's just like, oh.
Well, and the other thing is too, you feel like he's not a car person throughout that first beginning until he gets into that GT car, and you just think he's a big businessman. He's in it for the money, which I'm sure he was. When they're at the power plant to, hey, we need to beat Ferrari, does anybody have any ideas on this? And they don't want to turn to Ken and Shelby because they want to spend as least amount of money as they want, pretty much try to beat Ferrari, which you can't do that when you're going up against Ferrari.
Yeah, but literally one of the best car makers in the world.
Exactly. Yeah. But after he's in the seat, oh man, it's kind of small in here.
It's like sitting on my balls or whatever he says.
But it's like, I love that, because he could have just in that moment in that movie, he could have just looked at the car and it would have been like, yeah, this is great. But the decision to put him in the car, and Brad Pitt plays that real well. He's
Matt Damon.
Oh, come on. Matt Damon. Sorry. I get those people mixed up so often. Matt Damon puts him in. He's like, yeah, come on, sir. Don't worry. Aren't you a car person? Like, he's like, you're not a car person. You don't get in that seat if you're a car person. And it's just really funny how he has that kind of eagerness to show people what he's made and how it can impact you, like, emotionally, like you said with his, I wish my dad was here to see this, or be in the car with him.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I think that it's just so cathartic when that happens, because also you're locking the kiss ass in the office, which is just fantastic by itself. But like, just that sequence is also just so well edited and so well shot that it really sells the feeling of being in that car at that speed. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. But I just I just kind of wish that the first 2/3 of this movie, while it's good, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's by any means bad. I just wish it was as strong as the last third of this movie. Like, with this movie is the definition of like starting good, finishing super strong.
Yeah, like some of the scenes that I kind of don't necessarily pay attention to is like when they go see the Mustang for the first time, and the kiss ass is like, oh, don't have your son touch this, and Miles or Ken goes, no, it's okay, he won't be touching this, he only touches European cars and stuff like that. And it's just his hate relationship to Ford, but he wants to build a car that he wants to build, and that's what's
Yeah.
cool, how he gets that car in the
And he
end.
wants to drive it too.
Mhm,
And like one of my
mhm.
favorite parts is at the very end when he's walking away with Shelby, and they lost the race on technicality to McLaren, which
Mm-mm.
yeah, that was what happened at the end. They said McLaren won the race at the end.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. No, they wanted to finish 1-2, but then McLaren came in and got first place, so they finished 2-3.
Yeah, which at the end of the day, you still beat Ferrari,
Yeah.
which
Mhm.
is huge. But like when they're walking away and he's like, "Hey, you didn't promise me the win. You promised me the drive," and that's just like
Yeah.
that's a true car guy right there.
And I love, I don't know if it's like the first race or the second race where Shelby's having he's talking to the Ford people, and they're like, yeah, just have him slow down, have him finish 1-2 with the other GT that we have out there. And then Shelby brings out a sign that says 7,000 RPMs like hell, go like hell, which I
Yeah.
love that scene, because then Ken gets, you can see Ken get excited and it's like, okay, I've really got a race now.
Oh
So,
yeah, and show what he can do. It's
mhm,
like,
mhm.
I mean, you understand why Ford's like, yeah, maybe this guy isn't the best, but then like, no, he is.
He
Like,
is.
so it's fantastic. And like, again, the first 2/3 they have some brilliant moments in them, but I
Mhm.
think that just there's a couple little moments, a couple things where I'm just like, okay, let's move it along. Let's get to the good stuff. But you got to have the setups for scenes. You have to have the character building moments. You have to have those in this movie. But I just think that they suffer a little too much from
Mhm.
some odd pacing. So one of the other things that I kind of noticed about this movie is that I think that this movie really feels like Christian Bale and Matt Damon are the only two that are like really important in this movie, which I don't necessarily think is true. I think that the team from Ford is also important and should be you know represented. But I think like Christian Bale and Matt Damon here are very good. I wouldn't say they're like award worthy good, but they're very good, and they are carrying this movie performance wise.
I
Even if Christian Bale's accent kind of changes a little bit here and there, but
mhm.
it's okay. But they're really carrying the movie.
Yeah, and I mean, even the wife from Ken and the Ken's kid as well. They feel like they're just there. Like the wife has some good like talks with Ken about getting back into racing and stuff like that. But it's like they weren't as important as the two main characters. And I personally put the Ford team over his wife and his kid, even though the Ford team's not, well, no, they're in it a lot more than the kid and the wife. But I feel like they're just there. But the Ford team was the runner up pretty much to them.
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's just like you have a movie where you cast two people who are so goddamn good at their job
Mm-hmm.
that it's like, oh well, everything else kind of falls by the wayside, which is annoying because like John Bernthal plays against type in this movie. Like he's definitely still like a guy's guy, but he's more of like the corporate guy. He's
Yeah.
not the badass like, oh, he's the Punisher, like, right? He is definitely a lot more um, you know grounded, a lot more personable. Whereas Josh Lucas is a complete asshole in this movie, which like he's like that in pretty much every movie I've
Mm-hmm.
ever seen him in. But he was a complete asshole, which is just it fits.
Yeah.
They're playing their characters fine, but it's just they're so outshined that
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to ignore.
It's like a steep hill. You have Matt. Yeah, I had it right. Matt Damon and Christian Bale up at the top here, but then all the other supporting actors are just down here. Not saying that they're bad, but it's just their character that they had didn't have as many lines and didn't have as much as an impact as they could.
Yeah, it's 100% true. I totally agree. And I do also want to mention the sound in this movie.
I
aside
love
from
the
the
car
acting.
sounds.
The cars sound so goddamn good, and I'm glad the Academy agrees with us because
Yeah.
this film did obviously go and win the Oscar for it, and man, oh man, is it so well deserved. It is so. It just sounds so good.
They just having eargasms when they turn the car, even in the races when they're downshifting and everything like that. It's really just kind of hits your soul a little bit.
Exactly, and keeping it grounded too. Like they're
Hmm.
not doing the Fast and Furious. Oh, we got to go through 37 gears to get to the fast speed we want to get to.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
like it's
Hmm.
just oh man, it's a lot of fun to watch, and the sound is a big part of it. Like
Hmm.
you have to feel like you're in the car going that fast, and you do, and
It,
it's great.
it's it doesn't feel like it's muffled either. Like in Fast and the Furious, you can hear them talking clear as day. When you're in a race car, there's no sound detonation, there's nothing there. So it's just all it's loud, it's ringety, you can hear rocks hit the bottom of the car and stuff. And that's what makes it again more grounded and raw. And I
Yeah,
like when cars do that because it's like, okay, here's some actors and then here's the real actor, which is the car, which isn't a real person, but he can be an actor because the car is basically in the forefront of this movie.
yeah, which it should be.
Hmm.
Like this movie is about the car and the people who beat Ferrari at their own game,
Hmm.
which is like, yeah, it's a little bit American propaganda-y, but like, it's also like, yeah, they
But that's what
Ferrari
happened.
had it coming. Like it's so yeah, it's great, and I don't really call it an American propaganda film by any means because you got
Mm-mm.
Christian Bale who's playing a British race car driver. Like, it's not like they're not waving American flags or anything like that, but like it's great.
Mhm.
Absolutely, I love like the technical design of the film, the cinematography, like we talked about already. It's shot beautifully. This is easily James Mangold's best film.
Mhm.
And I believe this is the film that really started to get him work after. I'm trying to remember what else he had done. Because I mean, before this, I want to say his
It-
movie before this was Logan.
yeah.
Yeah, Logan was his movie before this, and then he didn't make anything after this until Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Mhm.
Which, I mean, say which everyone has their own opinions about that movie, but
Mhm.
I still thought it was better than the fourth one, and I think he directed it just fine.
Mhm.
So I think like he is a very skilled and very talented director, and I think this movie kind of feels like the one he put his heart and soul into because this was the story he loved and the kind of the history that he loved. It's kind of
Mhm.
like if my dad got to make the World War II movie he always wanted to make, like it, like or your dad or your mom or your friend, whoever got to make the movie
Mhm.
about the one thing that they care about the most,
Mhm.
and that passion really comes through, and it does make it a lot better of a viewing experience when you can tell that the person behind the camera has this large level of passion for it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Alrighty, Kevin. So, I mean, there's not really a whole lot else to say about this movie. I don't think there's not really a whole lot to examine with this movie. There's not a whole lot to analyze except for just how good it's made and whatever other kind of criticisms or praises that we have. So, since this was your pick, I'll go ahead and go and give my score first for this movie. I really like Ford v Ferrari. I think it's a really enjoyable um, racing movie, which I feel like there's not a lot of good racing movies out there that could get the imagination or at least the attention of many different kinds of people. And I think the star power this movie brings and just the overall story can really rope people in. I do think that the first 2/3 of this movie have some pacing issues and it can drag a little bit. But again, that last third, it's so good. So overall, as far as a rating, I gave the film 4 stars out of 5 on Letterboxd, and I gave it an 82 out of 100, which is my final score.
Gotcha. Well, final thoughts for me is if you want just a nitty gritty, down to earth racing movie that doesn't have to deal with explosions and family, this is definitely the one that you should go see. And it's a little bit historic as well, talking about Carroll Shelby and how he got his start in fame. Um, I'm very biased on this. I gave this 5 stars. It's 100 out of 100 for me. I can watch this all day, all night, put it on the background, know exactly where I am, and I'll be content with that.
Wow, it's probably the biggest score differential we've had in quite a while. But hey, we're both saying it's still good. It's not like one of us is saying it's terrible. So
Yeah.
you know, take that as you will. So the question now falls to you. What did you think of Ford v Ferrari? We'd love to hear what you think down in the comments down below, but make sure you're being respectful of one another because we are watching. Next week, we'll be covering the holiday classic, It's a Wonderful Life. Make sure to watch the film before next week so you aren't spoiled. It is on Prime Video, so most of you should probably have access to it. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to us here on YouTube, and follow us everywhere on social media at the word Real Watchers. That's with 2 E's. And keep your eyes on the channel. We do have some brand new video content coming soon, including a new top 10, which at the time of this release is probably about a week or 2 away. So make sure you are subscribed. But thank you again so much for watching. And until next time, make sure to keep your eyes on the screen.